been awesome, and I'm pretty confident this session also you'll do a great job. Over to you, Kavita.
Yeah, thanks, Kader. Um, Good morning, everyone. In continuation to the last two sessions on microservice, this session is more of how we actually write code using a Spring Boot Java-based microservice. Okay, so we will get started. Just before I go on to my slides, I just wanted to quickly ask if anybody had any questions from previous sessions. I'm sharing my screen now.
I don't have a. Hi, Kavita.
Hi.
Hi, can you? Okay. Hi, good morning. I don't have a question, but just like a side comment. So I don't know. Maybe at the end of the session, maybe not today. Maybe you can put it in your plans. If you could show us the full microservice application where you integrate different pieces together. I know I've been doing my own personal study with Spring Boot, and I see that a lot of times we use it to build a backend. So how we can connect the different pieces together. For example, someone builds the login functionality, someone else has built the logout functionality. How do we connect all these things together? That would be great.
Yes. Getting deployed and the whole picture we'll be doing as part of the next session, the Docker and the deployment. But at the end of today's session, you will have a better status where you'll be able to see the microservices talking to each other, talking to a database, getting the response and integrating.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah, we will be doing it step by step so that we don't jump into that. But ultimate goal is at the end of session 6, we'll be at a state where we'll be able to confidently deploy a microservice in our local end to end. Yeah, yeah. I've shared my screen. I'm going ahead. Sorry. Sorry. Yeah. So we're continuing with the Spring Boot microservice coding part. So last week, we've covered where how to build a microservice using a, IDE. We've used STS as the IDE. How to configure and set up and test using the Swagger or the Postman. So going ahead, we'll see how two microservices communicate between each other. And then we'll see how to handle the Spring Data JPA, that is, talking to the database and doing some transactions, and how to test our unit test our code using the Spring Boot test framework. We'll do actuator next week, and I'll show you a demo also in parallel. So moving on, like in the first session, we have seen where microservices are defined based on their business line, as well as we are doing it at granular level, right? So we'll be at a state where both the all the microservices need to interact with each other. So we'll see how different kinds of communication patterns we have. So one of them is the synchronous one, where we post a request and wait for a response. So we have to wait for the response. So that is called the synchronous. This is achieved by the general HTTP or the gRPC protocols. For HTTP, we have the REST APIs available. gRPC is also another protocol where this kind of synchronous communication can be achieved. Another way to do this is the asynchronous one. That is, a microservice one depends on microservice 2 or wants to send a message or communicate between the other microservice, but it doesn't need to wait for its response. So in those cases, we can follow the asynchronous pattern. So that this is done through messaging as well as event driven. So messages, like you post it into a message queue, and you don't have to wait for a response, and ensure that the message is posted into the queue, and the corresponding service which is going to be a consumer or waiting for your request will pick it up from the queue, and it'll then process it. So that is one kind of option we have. Another is the event driven. Event driven is slowly picking up nowadays, where we are seeing that we don't have to send huge request in the message, but a small status or the event based the approach is being done. So a message broker holds the small event, and the consumer will identify that and pick it up. So this is another way of asynchronous communication between microservices. So I just shown this in a small diagram. So if we go here, this is the synchronous approach, where we have the client making a call to a service, and it in turn communicates between the other two services, and we can see it is waiting for a response, or it is like a HTTP protocol being there. So this is the synchronous one. And here is that messaging concept, where there is a publisher into a queue and a consumer picking up from the queue. There are different ways to do this. We can do it using a work queue, where a publisher publishes into the queue, and there are multiple more than one consumer which will wait for the queue and pick it up. And there is also another concept called publish and subscribe. So we can publish. We can put the messages for n number of consumers. Kafka is a good example. So we put it into a topic, and the consumer picks it up from the topic. So we publish. That is called publish. So this is one way of doing it. And the event driven is in the service, it is going to place an order. So an event has been put into the event store in Kafka, and the processing service consume the order. It is kind of a small status update, and a small message which has been posted into the event store, and it gets processed. And for the communication channel, to decide upon which one to use and how to use, so these are some of the factors and features we have to consider while deciding upon the communication channel. So one is the direction. Direction means whether it is unidirectional from service 1 to service 2 only, or it is bidirectional, or in between, how the input and output have to be processed. So that has to be taken into account. And the data format. Whether you're passing huge data or limited data, or whether it is JSON or whatever it is, we'll have to take that also into consideration. And the security aspect. Security by default is needed, because when we are talking to something outside your service, you will have to ensure that the security is maintained. Either it can be simple token based or anything, but that also has to be considered. And the delivery guarantees are here, we'll have to ensure that whatever message or whatever the request response you post have to be acted upon. So whether your message in the queue has been picked up and processed or not. So all those also is very important, so that you will have to go for a retry or end up doing a failure case. So that also has to be considered. And then these two are anyway there anywhere. Performance and the overheads. So we'll have to take into consideration of the performance, that is the latency and the bandwidth. And overheads, the payload, what is going to be between the, what is being communicated between the services. So based on all these factors, we'll decide which one to go and how to do about. Okay. So I'll just move on. So we'll just see one sample where
Kavita,
yes,
sorry for
please.
the interruption. Like,
Yeah.
I have a question. Can you go to the previous slide?
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
Okay. So we have three types of you have mentioned three workflows for the queues, right?
Yes.
So is everything going to be on PubSub architecture? Like because I haven't used PubSub architecture or anything previously, so I wanted to know, like, is all these queues are going to be on PubSub architecture or like flow, or for example, say in the third diagram, can like multiple consumers subscribe to Q1 or something like that?
Yeah, we can do that because it is a topic where you subscribe to and publish to. So Kafka has that option, like how to give that details.
So technically, these three implementations are going to be the same, right?
It is the same, but like the configurations vary. And
okay.
why we are doing it, I mean, like the scalability and the details of handling, right? That also matters. So that's why I have put it like one to many and one to one, many to many can be handled. That's what I meant.
Okay.
Yeah, typically when we are configuring in a large scale application, it is the last diagram which we do. The Kafka has that feature, or even SQS in AWS. That's what I have come across.
Okay. So for example, in diagram 2, you have configured consumer 1 and consumer 2, right? So is it that both the consumers are going to consume the payload, or only one consumer will consume the payload?
There will be configurations where which consumer has to pick up based on the message details.
Okay. So C1 and C2 are different consumers, right?
Yes, different
So
consumers.
okay.
Okay. So in real time in Java, right, Spring Boot, we use the communication between two services using the REST template, which was there in the RESTful web services also. Which helps in creating a connection and doing an exchange with the exchange of communication between the other service. But this REST template is getting deprecated, and it has been replaced with web client, which does the same functionality. Okay, and the new feature which has been predominantly used nowadays is the Fiend client. Like Fiend client, we don't have to write the whole like the other service which we are going to invoke all the details. We don't have to write those details. We will expose an interface. Okay, and that interface will in turn process the request dynamically. So we just define what is the the other service which we are going to call. We'll define that interface in a client class, and we don't write the implementation or doing an explicit exchange method will not be there. The Fiend client we will do it internally. Okay, I'll show you an example. We'll see that. So before we go into JPA, I'll show you one example. So I pinged two service payment service and the bank service. These two are the two examples we are going to see. So these two GitHub link I have put in the Teams channel. You can pull the code from there. So this use case will these two use case today will be going through in all the examples. So I'll just brief you what is the use case about. So this bank service is something which will a microservice which will have the details to store the bank details. See now for my example, I am holding a couple of bank details and the accounts in the bank. Okay, so this service will maintain the details in a database. Okay, so we have written that example here, and the payment service is something which is another service which will internally communicate with the bank details to get the balance, and if you are doing a payment, see for example, if I use my on a shopping cart, I give the details, and we deduct the amount, right? So similar use case we have replicated. It may not be a 100% real-time use case, but we have just replicated this. So these two services we have done. Okay, so payment service will talk to bank service as a communication. I mean, to establish the communication. So I was talking about the Fin client there, right? So I will show you that code. So this has all the package structure which we talked about last time. The application class, the controller class, the service methods, and we have this time we have enabled the DAO layer also. That is the data access. That is to save into the database and retrieve also. We'll go through that later after we go through the JPA framework. So here is the Fin client. So we write a client class. Okay, and we expose a interface only. Okay, and tell them that which is the URL you are going to invoke. In REST template, we would have given the URL and do a .exchange on that. So it's the same thing we are doing using a Fin client. So this URL we have configured in the application.properties. If you see here, the bank service is being deployed in this location. So ideally that API has been pasted here. Okay, and we have given the request mapping here. So internally, when we are to do a communication channel, when we are trying to do a client invoke, right? This internally is being converted into a REST template, and it will create the connection to the actual web service which has been exposed.
So Kavita, this is Shakti here. I think like it can work without the URL as well.
If I think we have to give that. I'm not sure. I've not tried with that.
I have tried it once.
Okay,
it works.
okay.
Like basically, I don't know why it works, but I have two assumptions. Like because it connects with the discovery server, every service gets the other service, other registered service, or another one option is like because they run on the same gateway, it gets redirected. Like I don't know about it.
Possible. Possible. Yeah. Okay, so we'll have to use this Fin client annotation for that. Okay, this talks about the communication channel. So we'll just run this application. I've started this payment service on the port 5555, and the other one is on 8080. Okay, and the Swagger is also there. Okay, so just to brief you. As I told, this payment I've created some details already in the DB, so it is available. When we are doing the JPA, I'll show you how it works. So I've just created one record. So for this, the current balance for this account is 700. So we'll try to do a payment on this. For this, I am going to do a payment transaction amount of 150. Okay, so I'll execute this. So this is on the payment service. So the payment service internally is calling the, it got expired. Sorry, it stopped my server, sorry. So bank service is already running, so I don't have to bother about that now. Okay. So I'm trying this out. So the account is 1, bank ID is 1, and I'm trying to detect 150 rupees here. So internally, it is calling the other service, bank service, and it is deducting the amount. So it is reduced. So I'll show you how the bank service works, but just talking about the communication part. So this Fin client has established the connection from service 1 to service 2 wherever we need. Okay, so here in the so this is how the client has been used. So just doing the interface call here. Internally, the communication has been established. Okay. Any questions here? We will go to the JPA part, the most interesting part. So how do we how do we connect to the database for retrieving and any transaction related operations? Okay, so Spring Boot JPA is one such easy way to write code to connect to a database and getting it. In earlier days, we used to do it using JDBC. Where we had to write explicit methods and queries, and it was a tedious process. So currently the JPA is giving us the view of converting this into the the Java based approach. That is, it will convert the tables and columns into objects and classes. So it is easy for us to purview in that fashion. And it forms the object relationship model, and it has the set of interfaces for each persistent data view. Okay. And we have the entity manager API for processing queries and transactions. We would have heard about Hibernate. So Hibernate is a framework on JPA only, but that is an implementation way of doing it. And internally, it uses something called object-oriented query language. That is, converts the methods or the classes we write into the query, and it takes care of connecting to the database and retrieving and doing the transactions. And any DDL we'll have to write, right, is just an annotation or an XML configurations. We don't have to write explicit queries unless needed. Okay, so here everything we have to consider it as an entity, and any table as an entity, and the columns as its attributes here. Yeah, and it is annotation based. I'll show you an example. And to actually connect to the database and do that, we have to write methods, right? The CRUD operations, that is create, read, update, or delete. So those methods in JDBC we used to have the queries inserted and done, right? So but here here we are having the methods exposed by the JPA repository, which is a class which we'll use, and it will give the framework for all the CRUD operations, and even for any select and sorting also. So we don't have to write explicit queries or anything to do with that. Only the objects are being passed to the methods, and the operations are taken care. The transaction operations are taken care. Okay, I'll just show you the how actually these are set up. So initially, what happens is we have to we will go to this. In the pom.xml, we have to include the JPA dependency. We'll have to include the JPA dependency, and I am using an external, a local SQL for this setup. So I have configured, I've set up an local SQL, and we are trying to connect to that SQL using this dependency. And the object mapper, so the model mapper is something which we'll use to convert the input, that is the request and input params to the entity classes, right? So that one we will use this model mapper. So these ones will have here, okay. And then from the class perspective, right? And in this example, I'll just brief you that we have included the Flyway framework also, so that during startup itself, whatever is the DB setup needs to be done. That is the how your table and your columns need to look like. During startup itself, it will create the tables in the database. Okay, so we've given that configuration also in the code, and in the application.properties. All the configurations for the Spring JPA have been mentioned here. So this is the application name, and this is the DB instance name, and the driver to use, the user ID and password to login. So this is the local DB. So similarly, if you we'll have to update if you have a different one. So all those configurations are done in the application.properties to connect to the DB. And the Flyway during startup, it'll create the tables. And the convention is, if we have to do an update to this table, I'll write a v3 __ update bank table, and that gets picked up during the next time I execute this application. And it uses the checksum to check if there is any change to the SQL file or not. Okay. Yeah. Coming back to this mapping, right? For each bank, sorry, each table we can write a repository. So this is the JPA repository I was talking about. So all the default methods are here. The save, get methods, everything will be here. So we don't have to worry about simple select queries, update queries, everything will be actioned by these classes itself. So find by ID. So find by ID is like, the select star where we give the ID, where clauses by ID. So similarly, save methods we can write, or just find and we pass means it takes from the JPA repository the method exposed there. Okay, so we have the repository class and we have the entity class. So each table is converted into an entity. So we'll have to use the annotations, appropriate annotations, and give the mapping, table mapping. And we'll have to, all the columns are converted into the attributes here. Okay, and we have to give the equivalent annotations. So this at ID means it is the primary key for this table. Earlier we had an XML based approach, but most of them we are using the annotations only now. We are not using the XML based approach. So we'll write the entity class, we'll have a repository class, and wherever we have to invoke the database operation, right? We'll call that repository.save or repository.get. This is a create means, so it is a save. So in case of get, we are doing a find by. Okay, so the model mapper is something, which will convert the request into the request what is being getting into this class, right? It will convert into the back the entity class as one. We don't have to do a get and set for the mapping here. Yeah, any doubts still? No?
Yeah, I have a question.
Yeah.
In your first example, in your first demo,
yeah,
where you showed the payment service. So now we're talking about the JPA. Can you show us how it's related, the relationship between the payment service and the bank service, and how I know you kind of showed how they are talking to each other with the fin client. But in this case, can you show, because we are talking about JPA now, the databases. So how the relationship between the tables, how they connect between, like, for example, the payment service and the bank service.
Yes. Well, what I will do is I will run the bank service now. Okay. And then again run the payment service. So you will understand the usage now. Okay. So bank service is something, where we have created details to store the bank details. So now if I have a second bank, okay, now I have bank 2. I will create, I'll use the create bank method, okay, and it will insert into this. I will use that. I will show you that. Okay, so this is the create bank first one. I will change it to bank 2. Okay, so this service has been invoked here. So we have got the response as ID2. ID2 has been created, and the second bank has been inserted into the database using this create method, create bank method. So creating bank created. We are using this logos. Okay, so the repository dot save has been invoked. Okay, so now what I have to do is, so now I have a second bank. I want to add some account into the bank 2. Okay, so I'm using this account service which has been exposed here. Okay, so this is my bank ID 2, and I'm going to insert few details for this account. Okay. So here also it got inserted, whatever I have done now. So for this, I'm going to add some balance. So we have an API to add the balance. This is we are calling it as transaction management. So basically, if I get a debit into my account, so that is the scenario here. So the account ID is 2, what we created now, the bank ID is 2. So I'm going to add some 2000 rupees to that. Okay. So now we have inserted into the account also. So this is an update. So this record got created using the account creation. But now if you see, when I refreshed, only the balance got updated. So it was an update to the table. So using this account service. So using the transaction service, we have done a deposit. Okay, so we're just doing a set balance and doing a save. So this account is the entity class, like bank I showed. For that, we are doing the only doing an update on the balance column. So that's what we are doing is only account.set, and we are doing a save to the existing account object. We are getting the account details based on that bank ID and transaction, account ID I passed, and using that object and doing a save operation on that. In plain JDBC terms, it is like, update account table where account ID is equal to 2. So that kind of operation has been performed by this method without writing any queries. Okay, so now I got balance into my bank 2 also. Okay, so now I am going to use the payment service. Okay, where I want to use my details from the bank to do some transaction. Okay, so this is the API exposed to do the transaction. Okay, so now I'm doing an operation here. So I'm going to use 100 rupees here. So this is the service 2 calling the service 1, and internally it will do a withdrawal. Withdrawal here is again the same thing. We'll get the account details, doing a set balance. We are from the current balance, we are deducting the amount we are get it, which is coming in the request, and then we are again saving it back. So this is again an update operation. Sorry. So I'm passing this. So this is this takes care of communicating between 2 services and also the database operation. Okay, so now 100 rupees has been deducted. It was 2000 earlier, now it has come to 1900. And if we go to the payment service, here we have just doing a insert of what is the transaction we have done. Okay, so for this 100 rupees transaction amount. So this is also recording in its own database for the transaction. Does that answer your question?
Yes, it does. I understand this. Understand this clearly. Thank you.
Yeah.
But
so we tried to show a real-time use case, though it may not be a real-time scenario. But the real-time updates, retrieval from the database, as well as insert and updates.
Yeah. Great. Thank you.
And yeah. And we can also set up some exception criteria. If we are having some insufficient account balance, so all those checks and balances can be done. Okay, and Yeah. Any questions on the JPA? Yeah. So basically, just to summarize, right? It helps in easy data access layer. Actually, easy coding in data access layer. We don't have to worry about writing queries. We don't have to worry about writing too many methods. Also, it is giving us the framework to do that. Okay. Think yeah. I'll just tell you now this GitHub what we have pushed the code, right? All the details are there in the README. It is very self-explanatory, and how what all you have to do is been mentioned here. Okay, so only thing, just have a SQL local SQL setup, so it is easy. Okay. And moving on, I just wanted to talk about the test framework also, the unit testing framework. We understand, right? For every method and a class we write, we have to have a test coverage and unit testing inbuilt in it. So I'll just briefly show that also. So there are many ways to do unit testing. One is writing test classes for each class, and sometimes we do a functional testing from the UI or from Postman or however we do. But this one will help in testing each and every method for its inputs and outputs, whether the minute level details are being captured. So for every class, ideally there has to be a test class. So what happens is we'll have to write, for the account controller, we have an account controller test. Okay, so the mock is something, we in real time we talk to a database, or we talk to a real a backend system. It can be any other web service or anything, right? So that response will be mocked here. So that is what is the mock. We're using the Mockito framework here. So ideally, this account controller, we would have had a create account method. So we are doing a test on the create account method, and we are trying to set the mock details here. In some cases, we can mock the input input parameters or the values which have to be given. So in ideal case, this would have come in the request. So we are trying to mock that, so that we'll get the testing done here. So we are going to test this create method for the account controller class. So similarly, for any service class, we write the class. So based on its usage, we are writing. So ideally, this create account service method, I mean, so service class would have called the DB, but here we are returning the DB response, and we are not going to call the DB here in this test method. We can run each test class by run as JUnit, or at the whole service level, we can run all the test. So even the negative scenarios, like, also can be configured. So we'll see this JUnit being run. And for all the methods, the response has been captured. If some code is failing, right, it'll fail the case. And there are many other integrations with the JUnit, to do the coverage and more mocking and all those. But this is the simplest mocking we have done. All the input output response, everything has been mocked. And currently, the JUnits have to be there for every code we write. So it is important we do this as part of a practice. As part of we ensure that JUnits are written along with our classes, so that we don't have to go back and do that. Okay. The Spring Actuator I'll cover as part of the next session. That's where we are. Any questions? Anything you want me to show again? We have some time, I can do that. So what I would suggest is, the sample code we have here, right, is covering many aspects which we have done in at a single shot. So this will help in understanding many topics we have covered so far. So please go through that and try to configure this and play around this. So this will be really helpful.
Yeah, I wanted to ask, is it on the repo now?
Yeah, it is there. I put it on the Teams.
Okay, thanks.
This is really good. Another awesome session, Kavita. Thanks a lot. Next week, probably what we will also do is you plan it in such a way that we'll spend maybe in between 10 minutes to really kind of understand who all are attending the session and what they do and so on. Maybe we'll do a simple survey and try to understand together, because of COVID, sometimes we do a lot of online stuff. We don't know who is actually listening next to each other, who is there in the session and so on. So we'll try to do some exercise around that to kind of familiarize ourselves who is doing what, and maybe we'll do small survey to kind of understand what kind of people are attending, age group, and where they work and so on. We'll try to do that little bit fun thing in between next session, Kavita. If you can plan it accordingly,
Sure,
it would be
Kader.
good.
Yeah, sure, Kader. Yeah.
Okay.
Khader, this is Abdul Khader.
Hey, Abdul.
I just want to about job channel, Khader. Can I
Job
take up?
channel.
Yeah.
Yeah. Go ahead, please. Yeah.
Hello, everyone. My name is Abdul. I'm part of the Super community. I volunteer for them. We have a job channel where we want to help fellow members. So that if you have any openings in your company, please come to our job channel and do a job posting. If you have friends who are looking for jobs, you can guide them and tell them that we have a job channel where we have openings related to QA and other positions. And that's it for mine. Thank you, Kader.
Thank you, Abdul. Good job. So, guys, like I mentioned, it's all volunteer-run show. So, any help from you all would highly be appreciated. Any technical questions for Kavita? If not, probably we can close it like 5-6 minutes early today.
I was just looking at the repo now. I can only see the payment service. I can see the payment service and the bank service. But I know you showed a lot of stuff. Is it part?
Those are something which was there on my workspace. I showed the payment service and the bank service only. Yeah.
Okay.
That was something else which I had on my workspace. Yeah.
Okay.
Kader, Murli had helped a lot on this POC. It was a great effort from him.
That's really nice of you, Murli. Thanks a lot for volunteering. Appreciate your help, and I'm looking forward, Murli and Kavita, to engage more you guys to really help the community and learn together. Murli, thanks, and I will also leave the floor to everyone here to thank both Kavita and Murli taking time in spite of all the challenges back in India to come and help us to learn together. Kudos to them, and I'll let you guys to really give the appreciation to them. because we are all volunteers. Like I said, we all have to appreciate each other to really take this forward. Looks like there's no further questions, so I would, officially close this session. Thanking everyone for attending, taking your time during this long weekend. Have fun. Thank you,
Kadir,
Kavita, Murali. Yeah, go ahead.
Hi, Kadir. How are you?
I am good. Who is this now? Javed?
Javed.
Yeah, go ahead, Javed.
Just one thing. When I enter in the Microsoft team, I couldn't see anything. How can I add to the team? Actually, I found everything, but there is nothing. But I can join the session.
Yeah,
Is there
maybe you
anything?
don't. You have to create. You have to create an account, right? Do you have a Testoper account?
Testoper account.
Yeah.
I think it doesn't come by default on the email we have logged in. If you click on that icon, right, I'll just show you. So we'll have to go to the account. This is my personal account. By default, it doesn't show, but we'll have to click here. We'll see the Testoper community.
Okay, I am trying from mobile. I'm not trying using it.
Okay.
But first you need to log in, right? You have your email address and password. Like any tool, right? Even to get into the Microsoft Teams of Testoper tenant, you have to have a login and password. So login is your email address and password is yours, right? And that's what when you provide your first name, last name, and your email address, that's what the volunteer team, operation volunteer team, creates an account for you. So once that account is created, you will get the email, right? So you can download the Teams, and then you have to put your email address. First, you got to log in into the tenant. You got to make sure first, are you inside the tenant, right? And once you're inside the tenant, then what Kavita is showing, you should be able to see all the channels.
Okay, I will try it.
Sure. And if you still have a problem, put your requests in the WhatsApp group. Are you in WhatsApp group?
Yeah, I'm in the WhatsApp group.
Yeah. Just put your request in the WhatsApp group, and I'm sure one of the volunteer, when they are free sometime today, and they'll come and help you, definitely.
Okay.
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 All right. Anything else from anyone before I close this officially again?
Thanks, Kavita. We really enjoyed the session. Thank you.
Thank you.
Awesome, guys. Thank you, everyone. Have a wonderful day. Kavita, I'll floor to you for last to say the final thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Kadir. Thanks everyone for joining. And it was really very nice to prepare for this session. I know we went through many concepts which we learned earlier. And once again thanking Murli. He's ensured that the whole framework is set up, and we get a whole setup at one shot. We actually do this kind of programming in real-time projects. So this will really help everyone. So please go through the code and do some POC also.
Got it. Perfect.
Yeah.
All right.
Thank you.
Bye, guys.
Yeah.
Thank you.
See you next week.